Welcome to Grazora Life, where Brett and I talk about the fundamentals that matter to small businesses so that they can go from being stuck in a cage that's holding them hostage to actually having a business that can thrive. Brett, what was the most recent podcast that you've been listening to in the business or tech space
I don't listen to podcasts.
ever? And why is that?
It's
Because
not
I'll
ever,
tell
like,
you what, every business owner I know, they've got an earbud in and they're listening to something 24/7 all the time, every single day. They're always trying to grab that next piece of knowledge, that next piece of information, the next thing, grab the next thing, grab the next thing. And that is a consistent theme that I hear from everybody.
well, yeah, I mean, and I've been in that mode before, but I find that it's not super helpful. Like once you figure out what the next thing is that you need to do, then like you don't have any room for more next things until that thing is accomplished.
I don't know if people understand the significance of what you just said, because it's an absolute game changer for people that are running in the hamster wheel of life.
Well, and
So really unpack this and go through
yeah.
it. I think this is an absolute necessity for small business owners to know and understand.
All right. So you've got your business going. Let's say it's it could be a home service company, you could be professional services, could be whatever it is. Let's say you've got like 4 employees, you're doing 600,000 a year. I don't know, maybe $1 million. And you hear this great tip that you got to do this with your social media so that you can get more leads. Okay, all right, I heard that tip. So then you drive into your next meeting or whatever, and you have your earbud in, and you hear somebody else say that you got to do employee satisfaction is increased by 37% when you do this tactic. Okay, well, I got to do that too. All right. And whatever it is, all these different things, as you talk about, like all the things that you should be doing, and then you go to your meeting and you completely forget about those other things. And then you drive in your next meeting and you listen to something else, and as you say, the hamster wheel just keeps going. And one, it's really, I'm trying to think if I should use this phrase or not, but one of our, a person well known in the space, Alex Hormozi, he uses the term intellectual masturbation, where you just keep that learning, keep that thoughts going. You don't actually stop to do anything with it. And so when you know what your next thing is, like you can shut off the next things. Like you don't need them anymore until you get that accomplished. Because there's only one thing that really matters right now that's going to unlock another level of your business, and it's probably not the thing that you're doing, especially if you're so used to being on that hamster wheel where you're just running that endless cycle, and every week looks the same as a week before. It's like, where are you actually going with your business? As we say, like you started the business because you wanted a level of freedom. You wanted to have an impact. Like there's the extrinsic, you wanted those rewards, and there's the intrinsic, you wanted to prove that you could actually do it. And so there's a number of reasons why you took the leap to be a business owner. It's like it's the hardest thing to do. Like, and we love you for it. Like entrepreneurs are who want to make the world go round, but it's much more difficult than being an employee. And you did that, and you grew your business until you had some level of success, and then you got stuck, and the business has become a cage that runs you instead of you running it. And our entire mission is to help you get out of that. And one of the ways you get out of that is by essentially shutting off that constant stream of advice for all the things that you should do in your business, because there's 1,000,001 or times 1,000,000 things that you should do in your business, depending on which expert you listen to. But if you're here listening to us, like it's pick the one thing that's actually going to unlock that next level of growth, where you're able to get to a position where the previous week your schedule doesn't look the same as it does this week, because you've actually grown your business on a solid foundation, you could start to break out of that cage.
Yeah, I think that there's going to one of my favorite books, the scriptures, the Bible in particular. I think it was Paul was talking, and I'll misquote it slightly. Essentially, he said that this group of people were ever learning and never coming to wisdom or knowledge. So they were constantly just digesting information, and they used to gather in this square to hear something new. And Paul shows up and he's like, "Here, I got something new for you." And he starts sharing, and everybody's like, what do you think of that? And they did nothing with the information, and business owners get into that same rut. Now, I'm a huge proponent of also learning and increasing what you know, because if you have your whole life done something the same way, and all of a sudden you learn a new way of doing it that cuts 90% of your time and effort, that's a huge efficiency gain. Go for it. Learn those kinds of things. Like you're saying, if you're just so busy stuffing your brain with more information that the information doesn't actually relate back to the roadmap that you're trying to journey on, then you're just wasting your precious time doing things that aren't actually driving you towards the direction you're going for. So I can understand why you don't regularly listen to podcasts, because oftentimes it is fun or entertaining and you might get some nuggets, but at the same time, if you've already mapped out what you need to be focused on, it's best to be spending your time focusing on those things and not just entertaining yourself with this pseudo knowledge. I remember also I went to a conference, and at the conference it was supposed to be the cutting edge ideas, the newest, the greatest in this whole industry. And this one guy got on stage and he's explaining, he's like, "I'm going to share with you the exact formula that pushed me to $100 million business. Who wants that?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, let's go." And he shared something that would have worked 10 years ago. And it worked 10 years ago for him. But now he's sharing that as new knowledge that would work today, when the whole industry, everything has shifted. And if he was at zero today and did that same formula, he'd be at zero tomorrow, and he'd stay at zero because those strategies and techniques by and large don't work anymore. But that's how he got to the top. So he's sure that's how everyone else should do it. So if we're just digesting and accepting whatever people are sharing, there's a good chance we're going to be eating a lot of garbage too.
Well, and yeah, and it goes beyond that with the hamster wheel. So I spoke with the business owner earlier this week, and for them, it's not just the distractions of all the different advice they get from whatever podcast or show or thing they might be listening to, but it's all the other, like all the family distractions, all the hobbies, all the other things that just get in to the middle of a life. And this guy, he's got his core business stable, and he's ready to add that next product. He already knows what the next product is. He's already done 98% of the research on it. And yet, and that was true 2 months ago, he still hasn't taken the step to get it launched, even though he knows exactly what that step is.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he's just like, well, I got to get through this thing, and then I got to get through that thing, but I keep getting distracted. And at the end of the day, we were talking, and it came down to, he has no filter.
Coming out or going in?
He's a very, very, very creative person, or a very, very dynamic individual. I really like him, but he doesn't have a filter for what activities he should or shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
The world is deciding that for him. Like his environment is deciding what he should and shouldn't be doing, instead of him crafting an environment that helps him to do the things that he knows he wants to do. So his vision is indistinct. He's got it in his head, but he hasn't written it down. He hasn't shared it with his wife. He hasn't shared it with the other people that he works with. There's no accountability for how his day goes, because he doesn't have a clear enough vision to actually filter what he does on a day by day, hour by hour, or even minute by minute method. Like it doesn't exist. And if he were to take all of 10 minutes and write down, this is where I want to be by this day, you can get much more complicated than that. And he shared that with his wife, and he's like, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to get there, but this is my rough idea. Can you help me out? And these are the things that I think are in my way. Just having that conversation, sharing that vision. It's like his life would turn around, and instead of it's going to be another 3 months before he gets this new product launched, he could launch it next week.
So I think that I've seen enough to venture a theory, and I've not really shared this with a lot of people, but I'd like you to push back on it. My
Okay.
theory is that a lot of entrepreneurs, so I need to frame before I give my theory. Entrepreneurs, by and large, are people who sometimes struggle with organization, and they sometimes struggle with delegation. And there's a few of these strategies and techniques that maybe don't always come natural to an entrepreneur. When you take that entrepreneur persona, they had this idea of what they wanted when they were starting their business. And it's usually, I want to have a company that lets me have more money and more time. And it's kind of like looking up in the sky at the clouds, and you see these clouds floating by, and you see the characters in the clouds, or maybe it looks like a garden rake or whatever that cloud looks like. And that's what that idea in their head looks like. And here's my theory: when a business owner doesn't know how to take that cloud that they saw inside their head and convert it into actionable steps to move forward, they start getting in the habit of keeping themselves busy, because they think if they're busy enough, that cloud will somehow convert. And they may not think that at a conscious level, but maybe at a subconscious level, that they're driven by that cloud, but they don't know how to convert it. So they just work faster, harder, bigger, more, and they stay focused on the things that they're really good at and that they enjoy, because it gives them those endorphin hits that they're looking for and all the dopamine that they're looking for. But they don't make progress because there's the disconnect between the cloud in their head and the reality of the work they're doing. So my theory is they work harder, faster, and better, and more and more and more of what they're good at, because they don't know how to achieve the cloud.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily a new theory, but the analogy that you're using is like that often, especially for early entrepreneurs, the vision is nebulous, like a cloud, and it shifts and it morphs, and it's, it has a little different shape every single day. So we're like, well, I can't really write it down because tomorrow it's going to be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to limit myself. Or maybe they start writing it down and they're like, well, this is actually kind of embarrassing. Like no one's going to believe this is possible, or they're going to ridicule me, or for whatever reason. Like there could be a number of things, but absolutely that leaning into the busyness is a huge reason why so many of us get stuck, because busyness is not progress. Busyness is not business. Being busy is not the reason you started your business in the first place. You didn't start it so you could be busy.
Yep.
And like, I look at the best workplaces, like when you visit a company and you see like everything, like the tension is at a 9, and everybody's running around, and they're like talking to people, and they're like moving paper from here to here. Like they're just, everything looks like a scramble. It's like, some people might look at that and be like, man, this is the height of productivity. Like, look at everything that's going on. Or you go into a business where everybody's, they're head down working. Everything is calm. Like there is no tension in the air. And you might look at that and be like, well, yeah, there's nothing going on here. Well, for those who have experienced the difference, in my personal experience, the place that looks calm is the place that's doing 10 times what the place that looks like a scramble is doing.
Absolutely. Almost without fail. That's what
Yeah.
I've seen as well.
And so that level of like, these guys don't look busy. Well, because they're not busy. Busyness screams lack of intentionality. It's like, I'm just taking what comes, and as long as you take what comes, every day, you're going to stay on that wheel. Whereas when it doesn't look busy, not being busy is when you're very intentional about how you craft what your day looks like. What activities do you engage in? What are you saying no to?
I love that.
And that's the antidote to busyness.
Yeah, I think busyness is created when we don't know how to create the reality we want.
And well, I would even push back on that though, because not knowing how to create the reality we want, it didn't stop us when we first started our business. We didn't really know what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
but we took that first step. Like we knew it, like we knew enough to just try.
Yeah.
And whether we succeeded or not with that step, we didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we tried something else. And we
But
just
everyone I've met that starting a business is also extremely busy. I've never met anyone who's in that base camp level, brand new to business, that isn't just going 100 miles an hour with it, trying to figure out all the parts and pieces. And as the pieces come in, the busyness can have the opportunity to decline. But when you're first creating, it's a very busy, because you're out of this air and start building. And during that building phase, it takes a lot of time, effort, learning, knowledge, and there's a lot of busyness. But once the business starts getting those frameworks in place, busyness gets replaced by the structure of the machine that's going in the right direction.
Well, and I guess one thing that I've seen is this business that you're talking about. Oftentimes, it's people trying to reach too far for where they're at.
Yeah, that can definitely happen.
So they're creating issues, and they're working on things that don't matter yet.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, they're spinning their wheels. That's why they're staying busy over and over again. Even despite they're active, they're doing things. Those things that they're doing have no impact on the business.
Right.
And so if you're near the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, or your revenue is under $300,000, like in my experience, if you're not spending a minimum of 3 to 4 hours a day, either getting leads or closing deals, then you're not, then anything else that you're doing doesn't even matter. Like, because your business isn't going to grow. Like, you're not going to be able to have the revenue and the profit to be able to make any changes. You're going to stay in that rat race, because you don't have the and it's like this catch-22. It's like, well, I need the resources to do this thing, but I need to do this thing before I can get the resources. Well, that's not really true. It's like, what you need to do is you need to stop trying to do these other 100 things that you think are necessary and focus on the one thing that matters. Do you have enough leads? Like, do you have a backlog of leads? Are you up on your follow-ups? Like, there's some simple questions you can ask to diagnose, like, is your issue on the front end? Are you getting enough deals? And if you're not, then anything you do to improve operations, delivery, team, talent, culture, none of it matters. It's not going to move your business forward. And if you have a backlog, people are banging down your door saying, hey, I need your product. I want your service, whatever it is. And you're just struggling to deliver. Well, I mean, don't shut your pipeline off, but anything you're doing to make more sales, to get more leads, to improve your advertising, to improve your brand, any of that kind of stuff doesn't matter at all, because you're stuck with not being able to deliver as fast as people are asking for your thing. And maybe you fix that with pricing. Maybe you fix that by hiring more people. There might be a number of different ways that you fix that, but you know where you need to focus. And there's only so many levers you could push on to fix that thing, depending on your business.
Totally.
And so you filter it down, and the busyness goes away when you know that there's one thing to work on. And if, I mean, you're just making me so much more excited, because we're just on the final stages of like the finalizing the design for a map for how business grows, that shows the levels that every business grows through. And it shows what the standard you have to meet is at each level across all the functions in business. From what does your offer look like? What does marketing look like? What does sales look like? What does delivery look like? What is your finance and your systems and your data and your culture, what do all those things need to look like at that level? And to give an example is a company that's doing 10 million in sales and closing hundreds of deals every month, they need a relatively complex and durable customer management system to keep track of all their orders, everything that's happening within their business. But if you're just starting out and you try and install a high-end ERP, an enterprise management system, like, you're going to fall on your face. Like your company can't support it and can't do anything with it. You don't have any systems in place to design it around at all. So
Or,
all you need,
even if you don't fall on your face, you created inefficiency and friction that didn't have to be there. And that inefficiency and friction is actually going to slow you down from accomplishing your goals because the problem that you fixed didn't even exist yet. When a company gets big enough, then you need a data system that can make sure the data flows from point to point. But if you're the only guy, do you really need something that complex? Heck no. You just need something that can give you a quick reminder. Oh yeah, I've got these 7 people that I'm supposed to be in touch with. You could do that on a piece of paper. You could do that in a notebook. You could do that in a spreadsheet. Super easy, not complicated. Solved it in 2 minutes, kind of like they talked about when they first sent people up to space, and they spent all this money, all this time trying to figure out how do we make a ballpoint pen work in space. And it took piles of money to figure it out. And they're like, well, what did they do until they invented the pen that would write in space? They used a pencil. Like, they could have done that all along. They didn't even have to invent that pen because we already had a solution that would work. It's called a pencil. And so same thing with small business owners. You're trying to solve this big problem that's going to cost all this time, all this money, all this effort, and then it creates residual friction because you're earlier in the phases of business, and that problem doesn't exist at the level that you're trying to fix it.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. It's like start with a piece of paper. Like the most simple thing is just like piece of paper, then transition to a spreadsheet. Okay. Well, when you're like, if you're still at like even like 50 contacts a month, a spreadsheet is still sufficient.
And what's amazing though, and I want to address this, I've seen it happen over and over. People are embarrassed when they don't have overly complex stuff. I've talked to multiple salespeople.
Oh
and
yeah.
like, don't make fun of me. I just keep everything in a day planner. I don't even use a digital calendar. I'm like, I don't care. You're obviously successful. You're selling. People are buying. You're not dropping the ball. Like, who cares if you're using a paper calendar for tracking everything? That's great. If that's where your systems are at and that's working, go for it. But once you get big enough, you'll have to adapt. But don't push yourself into that just because you're embarrassed.
But I think it comes down to the workout analogy. It's like if you haven't been working out and you start working out, let's say that you get your consistency down, so you're working out every day of the week for, you spend 45 minutes before you break a sweat, and you're doing that every day of the week. When you're first starting, walking might be all you can do.
Yep.
And if you're worried that somebody might look at you and be like, oh, you're not packing the 100-pound boulder on your shoulder and hiking up a 2,000-foot mountain. It's like, what's wrong with you? It's like, it doesn't matter. You're at the level of where walking a mile from your home and back, that's all you can do at that time. But guess what? It happens to all of us. You start there, and pretty soon, after a couple of weeks, you're like, man, I'm going to have to go like 2 miles. Okay, so then you go 2 miles. You're like, oh, okay. Well, the walking thing was kind of fun. I'm ready for something different. It's like, let's start doing some like cardio or something. So you get a YouTube video and you start watching the YouTube video, doing some cardio, following some influencer or whatever. It's like, okay, well, then now you look for a harder video. Well, it's like, now maybe we need some dumbbells. Now, and you add things as you get stronger. And the same thing happens to your business. If you were to start thinking that you have to be able to pack the 200-pound boulder on your back up the mountain, day one, you're just going to crush yourself and not get anywhere. And that's why you're going to stay stuck.
And if we rewind to the very start of this, where we're talking about what podcast you listen to, people get into whatever they're doing and those podcasts can help support that. But sometimes those strategies are talking at that expert level of the guy who is climbing up the mountain. And he's like, oh yeah, it's super important that you make sure that you go to sleep exactly at this time. You only eat these percentages of food, and you blah, 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 blah. And they have this massive thing, and they're taking blood samples of themselves and doing all this vitamin analysis. And you're like, I'm just trying to walk a mile. But you hear the expert telling you all the things you have to do, and pretty soon you got so much garbage floating in your brain that you got that analysis paralysis, and you get stuck and don't make progress.
It's like one of the latest things is the peptide craze.
Oh yeah,
like people injecting all these different peptides. Like, if you're just starting, like, don't even go there. Like, just don't. Like, do the simple things. Like, when you get to the level to where you're like, okay, now I'm starting to feel pretty good on a regular basis. I'm consistent with my exercise. Like, now I want to actually think about, like, what does it take to start putting on muscle, and or whatever your goal might be. It's like, then you can start looking at some of those things like as the next level. But when you're still at the beginning, it's like, you don't even need weights. In fact, weights are in the way, and all you're going to do is hurt yourself and put yourself into injury, which is going to give you, then you'll use that as an excuse to stop exercising and blow the whole thing up in the first place.
Yep. Whether it's exercise or your business, it's not that different.
Yeah. And that is exactly like, I think that's why the analogy, it fits so well, because like when you are first starting out, paper, another craze in business is using AI. Well, if you try to install AI on a fundamentally messy, poorly designed system, all you're going to do is scale chaos.
Yeah.
And spend a bunch of money on tokens and just make everything more complex. Whereas if you can get it to work well with paper in the first place, then maybe you can transition it to a spreadsheet. Then it's like, okay, now we're at the level where we have something that works. Now you can get AI to help with pieces of that. And then AI actually provides a benefit instead of blowing things up. Because, as you may have heard the stats, like 70% or more of AI implementations completely fail. They end up not being useful for the business, which is why most people are still stuck using AI as a glorified search engine. I mean, it's essentially a chatbot.
Right.
And instead of actually using the capacity that is easily available now, but it's because we don't start with paper first. We think we have to jump to the complex instead of starting with simple and getting that to work in the first place. And that's where a lot of business owners get stuck. I talked to another business owner who's just barely starting. He's a startup, so he's not quite in our target audience, but he called me and he's like, when you first started, did it feel like there was 1,000,010 things you had to do and there was like this giant mountain to climb? And I was like, yeah, it felt like there were, not exactly like that, but yeah, there were like, 1,000,000 things that I could do. And I don't know that it felt like a big mountain, but it's like, for me, it was more nebulous. Like, I knew where I wanted to get to, and I knew there was a way to do it. Like, I knew other people who had done it, and I'm like, I'm smarter than they are, or at least as smart. It's like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so it's just like, well, what's the next thing that I can do? Okay, do that. Well, that didn't work. Oh, well, how do I change it? Okay, I changed it. Oh, now it worked. And it's just that iterative process, step by step, not trying to install Salesforce or one of the other, big sales platforms when I'm still trying to get my first 10 customers. Like, it's not going to help. In fact, it's going to be completely detrimental to everything that you're doing.
Right. Totally.
So yeah, I think we've hit that over and over again. And it's like, don't overcomplicate it. And if you want to get off the hamster wheel, pick the one thing your business needs and stick with that till it's done. Then if you need ideas, which you probably don't, because you've already heard the 1,001 things that you should be doing just in the last week, move on to the next one and install that. Like, you don't even need to go back to listening for all the new ideas. So hopefully we've done our part in cutting through the noise for anyone who might listen to this.
Awesome. That's a great place to end. Thanks. See ya.
Thanks.